The agent swarm taking over Claude Code is Ruflo. Instead of treating the assistant as one long chat, it wraps Claude Code in coordination, memory, background work, and shared agent behavior. The point is not another prompt box. Ruflo is built for AI work that starts to look less like one assistant and more like a team. The core idea is simple. One init wires a coordination layer into the way Claude Code already works, hooks root tasks, agents take specialized roles, memory carries useful patterns across sessions. The user can still work normally, but the surrounding system has more context, more tools, and more ways to divide work. This is mainly interesting for people who are already pushing coding agents past simple chat. Solo developers get repeatable workflows and background checks. Teams get shared coordination patterns. Security and platform engineers get policy, audit, and validation surfaces. Agent builders get a large reference implementation for swarms, memory, and MCP tooling. The repo has serious open source momentum. GitHub shows 38.3 thousand stars, 4.4 thousand forks, about 6.1 thousand commits, and an MIT license. The codebase is primarily TypeScript, but it has the shape of a real platform rather than a single package. This is not a tiny proof of concept. It is a large, fast-moving agent orchestration codebase. The repository layout tells you what Ruflo is trying to be. The Claude plugin surface is only one part of it. The v3 monorepo carries the deeper orchestration packages, and the docs, tests, plugins, and hosted UI code all sit in the same project. That matters because Ruflo is not just wrapping a model call. It is trying to package an operating layer around agentic development. The first major capability is the agent layer. Ruflo describes more than 100 specialized agents, but the number is less important than the routing model. Work can move to roles that have different prompts, tools, memory namespaces, and operating expectations. That is very different from asking one general chat to stretch across every part of a software project. The plugin system is where the project becomes more concrete. Ruflo ships a native Claude Code plugin marketplace with 32 plugins, plus NPM plugins around the edges. That marketplace turns capabilities into installable units, instead of making every workflow live inside one giant configuration. It is a practical way to grow the system without making every user install everything. Memory is the second big idea. Ruflo is trying to make prior work retrievable instead of disposable. AgentDB and vector search handle part of that, but the product idea is easier to understand than the implementation detail. The system should remember what worked, connect it to future tasks, and stop every agent run from starting cold. Ruflo also gives agents coordination patterns. The README calls out hierarchical, mesh, and adaptive swarm topologies, consensus mechanisms, workflows, autopilot loops, and 12 auto-triggered background workers. This is the part that separates a coordinated system from a folder full of prompts. The agents need a way to decide who does what, when to run, and how to report back. The web UI is a different entry point into the same idea. It takes the same orchestration layer and puts it behind a multi-model chat surface. The important detail is that tool calls can run in parallel and memory stays attached to the work. That makes Ruflo feel less like a command line utility and more like an agent workbench. The goal planner pushes Ruflo toward longer horizon work. You describe an outcome in plain English, and the planner breaks it into preconditions, actions, and a star search path through the work. When state changes, it can replan from the current state instead of restarting from zero. That is useful for tasks where the first plan is rarely the final plan. The federation story is one of the more ambitious parts. Ruflo is adding zero-trust communication between agents on different machines or organizations. The release notes describe MTLS and ED 25519 identity verification, PII detection, behavioral trust scoring, compliance modes, and searchable audit trails. The pitch is that agents can collaborate across boundaries without casually leaking data. This is where Ruflo can be better than simpler agent tools. A lot of frameworks give you a way to call tools or spawn a worker. Ruflo is trying to package the surrounding operating model, so coordination, memory, planning, security, and user-facing control all belong to the same system. If you need a small assistant, that is probably too much. If you need coordinated agent work, the extra structure is the point. Setup has 3 paths. The recommended path is a native Claude Code plugin install. The CLI path is npx Ruflo at latest init with the wizard. The MCP path adds Ruflo as a server that Claude Code can call. That flexibility matters because different teams will want different levels of integration, from a plugin-first workflow to a more explicit command line setup. The latest GitHub release is version 3.6.10, published April 30th, 2026. The headline is Expansion, more native Claude Code plugins, a bigger federation story, and new domain plugins. The quieter part is just as important. The same release notes spend real space on test fixes, browser automation fixes, MCP validation fixes, and daemon stability work. The trade-off is complexity. Ruflo is a big moving system, and it asks you to think about agents as infrastructure rather than just chat. It expects Node 20 or newer, and the current main branch is ahead of the latest tagged release. For small tasks, a normal Claude Code session is easier. Ruflo makes more sense when the work is broad enough to justify operating an orchestration layer. Ruflo is compelling because it treats agentic development as an operating problem, not just a prompting problem. The strongest idea is that Claude Code can become the entry point to a broader system for coordination, memory, planning, and inspection. For more GitHub repo deep dive videos, subscribe to Build Things with AI.